What's up, y'all, and welcome back to the Michael Experience Podcast. I am your orator and originator, Michael, and these are my thoughts, my life, my way. All right, you all, we are rounding out our life lessons and some of the hardest life lessons, as I've been saying, but we are rounding it out with this episode. So, you know what that means. This is the end of a series, but the beginning of a new series on the next episode. So, make sure you tune in for that. But today's episode is really going to be about something that I feel like has plagued a lot of us at one point or another. And I believe some of you have experienced this or are experiencing it right now. And that is the need to people please. And so, if you all are not familiar with the idea or the concept of people pleasing, it is really the notion that you are inconveniencing yourself in order to make something more comfortable or more convenient for another person. Hence the people pleasing piece. So you are putting yourself off to put somebody else on in some way, shape, or form. What I want to say about people pleasing is that I think at the core of people pleasing, it is really about acceptance sometimes. It is really about not wanting to create conflict and also the intent to just do what you feel like is the right thing in that particular moment, which is not to cause friction. I think this is kind of born from a place that is well intended but is just really ill informed, because you can't make everyone happy. You can't. And the number one thing and the number one deficit in this situation is that if you make yourself unhappy to make somebody else happy, then it's already like a losing situation. But it's also a bad habit to start. So, as I said, you can't please everybody, and there's no amount of doing that is going to make somebody else happy. And what I feel about people pleasing is that it cures, or I shouldn't even say it cures, it fills a temporary need, because either that person that is coming in is throwing something at you really quickly and you're just like, okay, like, let me do it. And so you're fulfilling a temporary need for them, but you're also fulfilling a temporary need for yourself. And sometimes that need is to be non-confrontational, to not have your anxiety and your nervous system overloaded by the decision or the idea of making somebody else feel bad or feel untoward in a negative way. And so in that moment, it's like, I'm just going to do this just to save face or just to save feelings. But when you start doing that, you build up a bad habit and you build up a negative interaction, or should I say, an invaluable interaction with somebody. And so this is what creates a lot of toxic relationships, especially. I would say, especially in the workplace, but more, I'll say commonly in the workplace, and then also in romantic relationships. So I'll give you an example. I have coworkers, or I've had coworkers, should I say, that will say yes to everything because they feel like if they say no, they're going to hurt somebody's feelings. And so while the thing they're saying yes to may not resonate with who they are, and although the thing that they're saying yes to may not even be in their wheelhouse, they say it because they don't want to put somebody else off. But meanwhile, they're scrambling, trying to figure out how to do things and how to make things work. And I will say one situation was at the level of career that I'm at, like senior director level. You have multiple layers of leadership up under you, but you also have a lot of peer partners and collaborators in the sky, if you will, in the corporate sky that you work with. And so I had this particular person that worked under me who would say yes to people just arbitrarily. Yes, I'll do it. And she wasn't very strong at every single thing. She was good at what she was good at, but she wasn't strong at every single thing. And so what she would do is she would call me and say, "Hey, like, how can I facilitate this or how can I do this?" And I'd be like, "Well, who did you get the direction from to do it, or who reached out to you and asked if you want to do it, because this is a question for them." But she wouldn't wanna say no to them, and she also wouldn't want to go back and ask them questions because she didn't wanna feel like, feel like she was small, or she wouldn't want them to say like, "Oh, well, if you didn't know how to do it, then you shoulda never." And so she would come to me instead, and I said, "You have to start telling people no." And no isn't a bad thing, and she would say like, "Well, I don't want people to think that I can't do my job, or I don't want people to think that I don't know what I'm doing." And I was like, "Yeah, but you don't know what you're doing, and that's the problem." I said, "So, I mean, in this situation, right, is it worse to just tell people, 'No, I'm not gonna do it,' and leave it at that, or you take on the project and then you do it to the best of your abilities and they still don't like it? So, which one would you think is worse?" And so she was like, "Well, I had never really thought about it like that." For sure, because here's the thing, you're going to drive yourself crazy for a week, 2 weeks to try to figure out how to do a project that somebody else asked you to do. And then you're going to do it, and that person is going to have a set of ideas and stipulations about doing it. And it's not going to be to their liking. I mean, more often than not, it's not going to be to their liking. And so now you've wasted your time, and probably the thought or the idea they had of you before is reinforced now that they've gotten this product they don't like. So this is why I say you cannot make everyone happy, and there really is no such thing as people pleasing. It really isn't. You know what I mean? There are some people that are going to look at you and see you for your complete worth and your complete value, and they are going to try to add to that. They are going to be a part of it, collaborate with it, all of those good things that are about reciprocity. And I think an even exchange is wonderful, and as the old saying goes, fair exchange is no robbery. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. That's kind of taking it back to the old bartering system. You've got something that I want, I've got something that you want, and we switch. I think that that is amazing. But at the point in which you are putting yourself off, and you are unbalancing yourself, to make somebody else, or to attempt to make somebody else whole, it's really a losing situation, honestly, on both sides. But what I will tell you is, even if even if you could do the thing, and this person keeps coming to you over and over and over to do the thing that you don't want to do, what do you think happens to your spirit and your morale, and your feelings? What do you think happens over time? You begin to feel used. You begin to feel used. And I think you can feel that way whether it's something that you're passionate about and happy about, or something that you are forcing yourself to do. I think when you are forcing yourself to do it against your own liking and your own value system, I think that feels even worse. But either way, you feel used when it's something that you don't want to do. And so that is why it is so important that you tell people no from the very beginning, so that you don't build up those, systems of negative exchanges with people and interactions. Because what I tell people all the time is that what you allow from people is what you become to people. And so if you continue to allow people to come and dump stuff off on you, or put the grunt work on you, or the things that they don't want to do, or for some type of fulfillment, humor, whatever the thing may be, right? If you continue to allow them to do it, then I mean, you have continued to allow them to do it. And so if you are not happy with the thing that you are doing, don't do it. And that is for any relationship, any space that you're in. I will tell you, this last stint, that I was in, right, as a senior HR director, I went into that situation fully knowing that I was going to say no to a lot of things, because it became very important to me as a person who can do anything, right? I'm one of those. I feel like I can do absolutely anything and everything under the sun. Well, let me not say that. Now, I probably could perform surgery, but it wouldn't be the best. But there are certain things like that that require a little bit more skill and technicality. I won't say I can do that, right? I probably could, but I don't know. But most things that don't require extra specialization, I can do. But the problem with that is I found myself saying yes to projects that I just wasn't passionate about and that I just really didn't want to do for some reason or another. And so my gauge and my lens for certain things was like, if I've tried it once or twice and it just really didn't resonate with me and it felt like it was pulling teeth, I'm not going to do it again. And so over my career, I would be like, oh, do this stretch assignment, do this stretch assignment. Well, let me put you with these people. Let me put you with these people. And so as I noticed that I was switching companies, I would go to these companies and they would want to do the same thing. And I'm like, I've already done that. And people were like, "Oh, well, where did you do that?" And I would say, "Well, I did it in this role." And they were like, "Oh, well, that's different." And I was like, "Actually, it's not that different at all. Once you learn a skill, the skill is still relevant no matter where you take it, right?" And so I started pushing back because I was like, "I'm not doing this again." Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not doing this again, especially because I don't want to. Now, it would be different if I found it to be mutually beneficial, but I'm not doing it just because you think that I should. And that was important to me, and it made me feel really good to say no, and to stake my claim on why I'm saying no so that you don't come back and ask me again, because that's a thing. If you're too passive about it, they will come back again, and you will find yourself like, okay, let me just say yes. Peer pressure. But that is what I started doing very, very intentionally. But then when I got to this role, I said, okay, Michael, you're going to be put in front of people, and you really need to narrow down the things that you are willing to accept and you are willing to participate in, right? Now, imposter syndrome will kick in every now and again. And I talked about imposter syndrome in another episode. So go back and look at that series about imposter syndrome. But that'll kick in sometimes in those moments. And it'll be like, well, you don't want to make it seem like you don't belong here, and so you have to tell imposter syndrome to go back somewhere, because imposter syndrome is the imposter. So I'm like, okay, no, I know what I'm good at. I know what I bring to the table. I know what's going to really make me come to life in the situation, and what I want to highlight are the things that I am good at, the things that emanate from my God light, I call it, from within outward. Those are the things that I wanna highlight. Those are the things that I want to be my claim to fame. And so that's what I did. That's what I did, and anything outside of that, that I knew for sure that I didn't wanna do, I would say no to. And so I will tell you that in a space where others were conditioned to say yes, and then complain about it later. I was coming in brand new and being a disruptor. I was like, "Oh no, I'm not doing that." "Oh, well, Michael, can you?" I was like, "No, I'm not." And there would be moments where I was like, "Well, if you need somebody for this, like I absolutely will do that, but that's not my wheelhouse." I found myself saying that quite a bit. That's not my wheelhouse. But if you need somebody for this, then whatever. And so there were people looking at me like, "How dare he say no? How dare he say no?" I have to be honest with myself, and I have to be loyal to myself first, because if I'm no good for me, then I can't be good to anybody else. Like, I can't give myself 50% or 25% and then go out and try to give you 100. It just doesn't work that way. So instead of me trying to fake the funk in that way, how about I say no to the things that I know I don't want to do, that I'm not passionate about, and I say yes to things that I would feel like would add value and that would be, within my realm and not put me out. And so that is what I did, and there were people that looked at it like, "Huh?" But what I know in that too is, right, you're always gonna have those people that are saying negative things about you, right? There was definitely at least one person within that was just looking for negative things to say about me. Even when I was working there, probably when I left, well, allegedly when I left too, and that's okay, right? That's okay. That's for them to figure out. It's something about their personality that they need to continue to project about me in some way or another. That's on them. So let those people sit with that and be okay with people talking bad about you. That's the thing. You have to be okay with people talking bad about you, right? And this is what I tell people all the time as I'm mentoring. I was like, just because somebody says something about you from their perspective doesn't mean it's an indictment on your character, right? Your character should speak for itself, and the truth really is the only defense. And so I don't give energy to the people or the one person who's saying negative things about me. Do I know that it's there? Sure, but I am not going to acknowledge and affirm that. I'm really not. I am going about my business and doing my own thing. And so you have to be okay with it because, again, you cannot please everyone. And I'm okay with one person or two people being upset, especially when there are 50 to 3,000 people when it comes to my particular role that are very happy with what I'm giving. So I can't focus on this one person that's going to be angry with me about something that they didn't get or something they didn't understand. That is a them problem. But you do have to be okay with people talking bad about you. The other thing is, you have to be okay with people not talking about you at all. And that's okay too. You're going to find yourself in spaces when you say no that people are not going to include you in conversations. Your name is not going to come up for certain things. And you have to be okay with that too, because I think another component of people pleasing is wanting to be a part of something and not wanting to be left out. So there's a fear that if I say no, they're not going to talk to me. If I say no, I might lose this opportunity. If I say no, I may lose my job altogether. I would venture to say that if that is the case, that stuff just isn't for you. And you just need to navigate and migrate to things that more align and resonate with who you are and what you bring to the table. There's no reason for you to try to force yourself to fit in a situation because, again, the truth is the only defense. And people know when you are not being truthful. You know what I'm saying? And it shows. It will eventually show up in your work. It will show up in the quality of your work. It will show up in the emphasis and the energy that you put around your work. So it's best that you start with a cadence based on truth so that you don't find yourself later on down this rabbit hole and then you're trying to dig yourself out and you are trying to reshape or redefine what this negative thing is that people think about you based on these no's or that you said yes and you didn't show up and fulfill whatever it is that they wanted. So it's just very important that you be, altruistic to who you are and the things that you want to do. I've seen so many people, again, like the coworker I mentioned, that would just keep saying yes and keep saying yes to people. And then she would be burnt out. I remember there was a moment she came to me and she said, They've got to stop asking me to do these things. And I said, You've got to stop telling them that you will do them. You have to stop telling them you will do them. I will be the first one to be like, that is not in my wheelhouse. Well, you can do that because of your position. I was like, I wasn't always in this position. I wasn't always in this position, but I always knew exactly who I was and what I could bring to the table. Now, did I sacrifice some of my comfort at the very beginning doing the things that, nobody else wanted to do? So that I can get noticed and get visibility. Yes, very early in my career, I think that is the point in our lives where we are paying dues, but also we're really figuring out that part of our identity. So, absolutely, at the entry level of my career, I was finding out what I liked and what I didn't like, and I was applying things and finding out in real time through trial and error if that was really me. And of course, I sacrificed my comfort in those early years, but what happened is, as I moved along in the journey, the goal was to not do those things anymore. It was like, yeah, no, if it's not me, I need to move into positions and move into places that were more in alignment with my skills and my value system. And so that is what I did at every turn and every pivot and every maneuver going forward. I wasn't there to people please anymore. I was there to fulfill a job. And one of the things that I really kept at the core and at the center of who I am is that You brought me here because I'm me. You didn't bring me here because I was you. You didn't bring me here because I was Sarah or Ryan or Michelle or Brenda. You brought me here because I'm Michael. And you liked either something that Michael said, something that Michael did, or something Michael said that he would do. But in any indication along the way, you knew that Michael would do things the Michael way. And if it was not the Michael way, it was my responsibility to let people know that that is not my way of doing it. And that is something that I have kept with me throughout not just my career, but my life. And I'm like, yeah, if it's not me, I'm not doing it. You wanted me here for me, right? So I'm going to do me. And I think that's an important center for everyone to uphold when they move into whatever spaces they are, whether it is love, whether it's friendship, whether it is, a work relationship. Like, you are there to be you. You are there to be you, and nobody knows you better than you. So you have to show up each and every day and make sure that you affirm and acknowledge that, and then also project that to people. Because if you take everything that's handed to you from other people, you are then allowing other people to define who you are and how you move. At some point, you have to say, no, that is not me. No, that is not me. Oh, give me more of that. That is me. And that is what we call your footprint, especially in corporate spaces. That is your footprint. The things that you are good at, the things that you shine at, that is your footprint. That is your superpower. That is your North Star, to finding your way through things. But you have to be firm in that, and you have to learn how to say no to people. Yeah, you have to say no. And I know that can be hard sometimes, especially when you are faced with uncertainty, when you are faced with a lack of access and a lack of resources. But what I will tell you is, if you operate in a lacking mindset, you begin to be in a survival mode of sorts, and so you will begin doing things that are against your own interests for the sake of whatever said opportunity is. And you'll be doing things again that are not altruistic of what your character truly is. And so I would venture to say that there are other opportunities out there that closely align with who you are and what you would like to represent. You just have to put yourself in front of those, and you have to pursue them, because taking the wrong opportunity can derail your life and your career for a very long time. And so it's important that you take as many right steps as you can, to subvert that or to avert that. You don't want to be you don't want to be taking opportunities just for the sake of, and then you find yourself quitting every 2 months or every 3 months, or getting fired every 2 months and every 3 months, or situationships. You don't want to find yourself in one every 2 or 3 months, going after things and participating in things that you know are not you. And I see a lot of people doing that all the time. Luckily for me, I've never really had the people pleasing spirit. I've always had this sense of, I'm me. And even in the moments where I didn't fully know my identity and I was just figuring it out, I knew damn well that when I felt something that didn't feel like what I would want to become, I wasn't going to do it. I was like, hell no, I'm not doing that. And so that can be powerful too. You be like, yeah, I may not be 100% sure on everything, but I am 100% sure on that thing. And I'm going to go ahead and move on from here. So I'm glad that I've always had that spirit and that level of intuition to move forward. But I've seen so many other people go down the wrong path. And even in relationships, I see people who will try to make somebody fit. And so they'll do things that will have them in a compromised position. People will sacrifice their morals. People will sacrifice their relationships, their connections, their livelihoods, just to feel like they are a part of something. I can't tell you how many women I've seen take criminal charges for the sake of being with somebody. And I think that is absolutely crazy. I've also seen men that will spend outrageous amounts of money to try to compensate for ego and to feel like the man in situations too. And I'm like, yeah, you're not going to get what you want from that. You are not going to get what you want from that because your catalyst and your reason for doing it is just is it's wrong. It's a lie. It is a lie. If you feel like you have to spend money to create love, it's not love. The love is a lie. If you feel like you have to say yes to a bunch of things that feel like no's, that's a lie. Because what happens when that stimulus is no longer there? What happens when that stimulus is no longer there? Then what do you become? Then what do you become? Do you continue just people pleasing everywhere you go? And then what happens to your self esteem when you've created a culture of people pleasing, not just in one space, but in all spaces? What does that do to your self esteem? When you know full and well, I think that is more hurtful. When you know you don't want to do something, when you know you don't want to be a part of something, but you do it anyway. I think we've all seen, and I'm sure you are sitting there now thinking of at least one person that you know who is miserable. It may be you, or it may be somebody close to you that is just miserable in the situation, but they're staying because they don't want to hurt somebody's feelings, or they're staying because of somebody else to make them feel better. It could be your mom, it could be your dad, it could be your sister. It could be your best friend. And they are operating in dynamics, saying yes and doing things. And they are absolutely miserable. I always notice those things from a mile away. And the people that are people pleasers show up in a room very unsure, show up in a room very much so with a muted voice, very much so with their, head kind of lower, shoulders kind of downward, always looking for validation. Does some of this sound familiar? Have you seen some of these things? They cower in the corner of the room. This is no way for a person to live. And again, you have to stop these dynamics at the beginning. When you know, when you have to say no. It is important for your current self and the progress of self, your future self. It is very, very important that you get comfortable saying yes to you and no to what is not you. I've not been in relationship where that has happened to me, but I've had women particularly in my life where I can say that has been their story. And I've always said, you cannot be a doormat. You cannot be a doormat. Like, if you continue to allow that from a person, that is what you become to that person. So I'm going to need you to get a backbone, and I'm going to need you to go in there and say what it is that you need to say. Well, what if they get upset and what else? So what? So what? Either you're going to be upset or they're going to be upset. Which one are you going to be more upset? Which one are you going to be more upset and uncomfortable with? If I have to pick between me and you, especially concerning something that involves my bodily autonomy, my mental autonomy, my emotional autonomy, if especially if it is that, I'm choosing me. I'm not going to upset myself just to make you feel better. I absolutely am not doing that. And if you get used to it and you get complacent and you feel a sense of ownership to it, then you are definitely somebody that I don't need to be around. You are definitely somebody that I don't need to be around. We don't need to be around each other. If our yeses aren't compatible with each other, if our yeses are not compatible with each other, then our nos don't need to know each other. Amen. If our yeses are not compatible with each other, our nos definitely don't need to know each other. Okay? Because we're not meant to be. We're not meant to be. If I come in and you say to me, Michael, this, and I say no, and then I go over to you and you say no, our nos don't even need to know each other. We don't need to be around each other. Now, if our yeses are compatible, Michael, can you do this? Yes. Can you do this? Yes. Okay. If our yeses are compatible, we good to go. But if our nos, listen, if our nos, let's go. Let's go. I'm good with that. I'm good with that. And I'm going to find places where my yeses are compatible with other people. And that is just it at the end of the day. I know this may be easier said than done for a lot of people because, people always want to say, well, you don't understand and you don't live my life and you don't know what, I'm up against. I may not know all of the external factors that you are up against. I may not. I may not know you as a person from Adam, from Amanda, from Amber. I may not. But what I do know is that we all have the power to control how we move through this world, think, feel, talk, move. We all have power over that. Now, there may be other things that tell us we should be this way or that way or this way, or I would like you to be, but that doesn't mean you have to be. It does not mean that you have to be. It is your choice whether you want to let that infiltrate your system and to take over. I say no. Anything that is not emanating inward, from inward, outward, absolutely not. And if I don't have a curiosity, absolutely not. It's no. There are times where people will ask me for things, and before they can complete the sentence, I will have grasped the concept, and I'm like, no. Well, you didn't even hear the full thing. It already doesn't sound like me. No. Mm-mm. And I'm all for telling people if we are going to be in partnership and relationship, I will tell you what my yeses are. And you can be like, yeah, no. Okay. I'm okay with that too. No harm, no foul. I'm not upset. I am not upset. And if you don't invite me to anything else or you don't ask me to come to be involved in anything, I'm okay with that too. I will find my tribe, but I'm walking away with my integrity intact. And I'm going to walk away fully knowing that the person that I have pleased the most is myself. Absolutely. So it can definitely cause, back to my earlier point, it can definitely cause people to have low self esteem. And again, wanting to belong to something, be a part of something, be acknowledged, be seen. All of those things can make someone become and participate in people pleasing. But at the end of the day, it leaves you empty. If you keep shelling out, shelling out, shelling out without getting anything back, you're going to end up empty. You're going to end up empty. So, my hope is that if you are, and yes, I'm talking to you, if you are people pleasing right now, if you are saying yes to some things that feel like no, my hope is that you make a different decision from this moment and every moment forward to say yes where your yeses are compatible and no where your no's no, it's a no. That is my hope because you owe it to yourself to be yourself, to be fulfilled in self, and to give people the gifts and the light that is innately who you are. So don't go into any more work relationships saying yes to projects that have no interest, no bearing on your success or who you are, who you want to become. No, The answer is no. I don't care if you've done it for the last 10, 15 years. The answer is no. That's not an active interest of mine. That no longer suits me. When you start to be, I tell you this about alignment, when you start to become who you are meant to be, and you start acting different, moving different, and you start filtering out those things that are no longer of service to you, and you start being more open and more narrow minded on the things that do, more focused and narrow minded on the things that do, there some people just are going to fall by the wayside. They're just going to fall by the wayside. They're going to stop talking to you. And like I said before, you have to be okay that people don't want to talk to you. You have to be okay that people are not going to mention your name in spaces anymore, bring you up. You got to be okay with that. And you also have to be okay with people talking bad about you. You have to be okay with people talking bad about you. Oh, well, they told me no. Like, what is that? They don't want to be a team player anymore. Oh my God, they were so rude to me. It's just the way they said no. It's going to be something from someone. But what I contend is that that is the one or two people that is going to say that. And there's probably 10, 20, 100, 1,000, wherever you are in life, there are much more people that you are impacting in a positive way who are not saying those negative things. And there are much more people who are waiting for you to stand into your God light and your innate person that you are, so that they can say, you know what, I've been waiting for you to show up, and we're going to take this thing all the way. There are people waiting to say yes to you, waiting for your specific skill set, your energy. There are people waiting. But if you never show it, you never speak it, you never believe it, and you never be it, you will never achieve it. And so you have to be okay with the circle that you're in, saying, okay, mm-mm. And if it's your time to go, be okay with it being your time to go. That's the other thing. It can be your time to go. Again, some of these things happen just as we grow and mature into who we are. Maybe you were saying yes to figure it out like I did at the beginning. Yeah, okay. I said it at first to figure it out. Okay. That doesn't mean you have to keep saying yes to it. No, I figured out that doesn't work. Okay. So what's important to me? What do I want? You get to make the decision. You get to make the decision. And if for whatever reason the place that you started and the place that you have continued in no longer suits you, you have to be okay with saying, listen, I got to go. And that means maybe working for a new company after 10, 15, 20 years. Yes. Maybe that means leaving people that I've always known in my community and in my neighborhood. Yes. Maybe that means that my family who I've been enmeshed with 24/7, 365, maybe that means that I have to slowly pull away from them, right? Yes. That's what you have to do to become who you are meant to be. But until you do that, you are going to continue to be in a space of stagnation, depletion, and low self-esteem. So, again, my hope is that if you are at this point dealing with people pleasing, that you make a decision. You get to make the decision. And there are going to be people that don't like it. But I think you will be surprised at how many people say, I've been waiting for this person to show up. I've just been waiting. And you cannot focus on the naysayers at all. When people become dependent on a system, when it gets ripped out or when that system is no longer continuing, they tend to get upset, don't they? Happens all the time. But hey, people figure it out and they move on. They'll find somebody else or another system to rely on. But your allegiance and your yes needs to be to you first and then others. All right. So I hope that this has enriched your life in some way. I hope that it has begun you down the path of thinking, where do I need to say no? Where do I need to say no? And if you're saying yes all the time, I think that is a wonderful indicator of the fact that you need to start saying no to something. If you find yourself just innately, yes, 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 you need to sit down and take an inventory and figure out what you need to say no to, because you cannot and will not be able to please everyone. And in that is yourself. Okay? If you don't do the right things. All right. So I thank you all for the time and the conversation today. This has been the Michael Experience. For those of you that have subscribed to the Apple Podcasts Premium or Platinum subscription, I thank you so much for supporting the podcast in that way. If you have not already, make sure that you go on over to Apple Podcasts and get your Platinum subscription today so you can get exclusive inside the conversation and mic drop moments. Go on out there and love on yourself before you can love on somebody else. And I'll see y'all on the next one. Peace and love, y'all. Bye.